In the dark corners of medieval Japan, a revolution is brewing. Men of all ranks gather together, unified by a single, dangerous goal: overthrow the mighty shogunate, the military government that has brought nothing but misery to Japan. But among these rebels is a man far more dangerous and ambitious than the government they seek to topple. This man hides in the shadows as he writes the history of Japan and decides the outcomes of many wars that are about to happen. From smoky backrooms to bloody battlefields, watch an empire fall and a new order rise. This is no ordinary story. From emperors failing to governments crumbling to one of the biggest wars in Japan's history, in which thousands of samurai perished. This is the story of one man who brought down the Japanese Empire. The year is 1332. A rumor is spreading across the country from the capital, Kyoto. It is said that the Emperor Go-Daigo schemed against the shogunate, the military government that has been suppressing his rule, to plot its downfall. Some go on to say that the emperor will be exiled, with the crown ripped away from his hands, and a new emperor would be installed in his place. These rumors affected the common people deeply because it isn't just a political matter. This is a matter of their hopes and dreams and the lives they envisioned for their children. If the rumors were true, then all hope is lost. Emperor Go-Daigo was the last strand of hope left to be free from the tyranny and the ruthless rule of the shogunate. The rumors were indeed true. But this isn't a sad story of an emperor's downfall. It's his rise against seemingly impossible odds. Go-Daigo's exile only marks the beginning of a tale that burned itself into the pages of history. This is just the start of years and decades of chaos Japan is about to descend into, and countless wars and battles that are about to happen. But first, it is important to understand how it all came to this. The shogunate was established in 1192, declaring itself as an independent military body, serving not the king or the court, but the nation. It was entirely made of samurai, and its influence over the country grew as the time passed. The shogunate claimed control over regions and achieved all of this just using sheer force. Over time, the influence of the shogunate became far more than the emperors themselves, and quite literally, the shogun was the ruling power of the country. The common people actually enjoyed a much better, just and impartial rule under the shogunate than under the king, at least until the Hojo clan stepped into the picture. The Hojo clan's unending greed and corruption seeped into the shogunate, and their rule was miserable. Peasants and merchants, the common people of Japan, suffered the most during their rule, along with the rampant violence of samurai all over the nation. The imperial court and the emperors have been reduced to nothing more than symbols of power. All of these have been burned into the mind of young Go-Daigo, who became fiercely determined to overthrow the shogunate. Go-Daigo's plan was crafted meticulously over 10 long years, forming alliances and strengthening his position. His exile isn't something that would subdue a man like Go-Daigo. On one hand, we have Go-Daigo shouldering millions of people's dreams and hopes. On the other, we have this invincible force that overwhelmed the empire for centuries. What is one man and his dream against this? Does the emperor truly stand a chance against the shogunate? Two men were foundational to the emperor's return to power. Prince Morinaga, one of the emperor's many sons, had been secretly communicating with lords and clans across Japan during the exile, gathering allies in the shadows. Meanwhile, a loyal warrior named Kusunoki was causing tremendous trouble for the shogunate. He outsmarted and defeated commanders in battle after battle, just using a small force. Just as the troubles caused by these two men alarmed the shogunate, rumors of many prominent clans plotting the downfall of the shogunate started to appear, thanks to Prince Morinaga. As the tensions grew, there were reports of minor revolts in the remote parts of Japan. If done nothing, then these would turn into an all-out civil war, and the shogunate felt the desperate need to attack and weaken the fundamental cause of these troubles. And here is where they would make their greatest blunder, one that would turn the tides to to the emperor's favor. The shogunate sent almost all of their forces, calling away samurai spread across the country. There was a desperate need to take down Kusunoki. The local clan leaders and lords took this opportunity to claim back their influence in the regions far away from the shogunate. Some records even mention that many smaller lords raised their banners in open rebellion. The boiling resentment in the people is finally starting to show up. It was almost as if the whole nation was at war against the shogunate. From this point on, it only gets much worse for the shogunate. Seeing the growing tensions and support, the emperor takes the risk and leaves the place of his exile. The news of his return spreads like wildfire across the empire. Soon, Japan's western regions were controlled by forces loyal to the emperor, and the emperor set up a temporary court. This meant only one thing: war is about to break out. And indeed, it did. The shogunate allied with many clans and sent 2 divisions of 5,000 men each led by some of the best commanders of that time. Among the 2 commanders was Ashikaga Takauji, a formidable man who would play a crucial role in the many wars to come. The stage was set for a decisive battle. If the emperor were to lose, then all hopes of restoring the imperial rule would be lost, and that will mark the beginning of an era in which the country would be exploited by the greed and the corruption of a single family. But in the midst of all the chaos, a new enemy rises against the shogunate in the east. He seeks to destroy the very heart of the military rule at Kamakura, while all of its forces are engaged in the battle against the exiled emperor. The fate of Japan hangs in balance. As the armies move, the nation holds its breath, anticipating who would emerge as the victor. But behind all of this, unknown to anyone at this time, the man in the shadows is about to make his move. A simple move that would change the course of war and history in ways you can't ever imagine. The fate of Japan truly hangs in balance. 1180. It was the year of the revolution that would later form the Kamakura shogunate. But one man, the head of the Nitta family, did not take part in that revolution, despite receiving summons. When the revolution gave birth to the shogunate, the Nitta clan was cast off into the corners of feudal society. It is said that they tend to live apart and nourish their grievances. But beneath the calm surface was the unending desire to overthrow the shogunate and restore their clan to its former glory. And as if fate willed it, the current head of Nitta clan, Nitta Yoshisada, has been given the perfect opportunity. Morinaga issues a summons to Nitta that orders him to gather allies and attack Kamakura city. Wasting no time, Nitta sent word to as many possible allies as he could. By the mid of June, in front of the Ikushima shrine in his home district, he raises the banner of war. He has declared open rebellion on the shogunate. As the army marches towards Kamakura, the seat of the shogunate's power, he is joined by more and more warriors answering the call. Nitta faced almost no resistance in battles on the way to Kamakura, defeating anyone who opposed him, battle after battle. On July 1st, 1333, Nitta's army would reach Kamakura. His army was split into 3 divisions, each attacking the 3 different points of entry of the city. On the evening of the same day, the battle began. The sounds of 1,000 warriors in battle, the clash of steel against steel, and the last cries of many samurai echoed through the city for days on end. But here is where things start to go south for Nitta. This is the first time the army faced such a severe setback. What was once a glorious army is being reduced to dust. Few days later, Nitta would receive a horrible message. One of his entire divisions, led by his most trusted friend, has been wiped out entirely. It really seemed as if the shogunate was just invincible. Nothing could ever stop or topple this mighty government. Losing this battle would potentially mean the end of everyone he loved. A head-on attack at the city's defense wasn't the answer, and as if by a stroke of genius, the answer dawned on him. The southern side of the city was defenseless, but was impossible to enter through because of the sea. But on this specific day, the tide was low, and it meant that there was a possibility. Nitta gathered his forces and reached the southern shore. It is said that he offered his sword to the sun goddess, Amaterasu, and the ocean parted for his army to march on. Samurai and commanders at that time believed that the outcome of the battle was always influenced by divine intervention. Although the parting of the sea is nothing more than a fable, one thing is certain: Nida has found a way into the impregnable Kamakura. Battle breaks out inside and outside the city defenses. One chronicle describes it vividly: the shouts of warriors, the whistling of arrows, the sound of the feet of armed men, and the hoofs of the chargers did not cease for 5 days. On the 5th day, July 5th, the battle came to an end. One of the forces has been decimated. Just around this time, news that one of the commanders of the Kamakura army has been wiped out spreads. Ashikaga Takauji, the other commander, now leads all 10,000 of the men and marches with a fierce determination. If the king were to be captured, and if Nida had won, that would lead to a massive power vacuum. Families would rush to fill in the void left by the previous powers, and the country would descend into years and years of unending wars. While the fate of the empire remains unclear, the man in the shadows makes his move.
Takauji, my son, I have done everything I can. My time is ending. It is in your hands now. The Hojo clan is a leech on the empire. Destroy the Hojo clan.
Takauji betrays the shogunate. He sends word to the emperor regarding his loyalties and requests a commission to attack the Hojo headquarters in Kyoto, which played a crucial role in controlling the Western Japan. He split his army into 7 divisions and entered Kyoto with almost no resistance. As dawn breaks, the city erupts into chaos. Street fighting breaks out, the defenders are pushed back, and buildings are set on fire. One chronicle paints a vivid picture. By afternoon, the sky was full of smoke. There was no daylight. It was as if the scene had been rubbed over with ink. In a single day, Takauji has accomplished the seemingly impossible, destroying the government that ruled the western side of Japan. There is but one question that is unanswered. What is the outcome of the Battle of Kamakura? From the ashes of what was once a great city, Nida emerges victorious. Thus, in the blink of an eye, the once invincible government that fiercely ruled the nation with an iron grip has been reduced to dust. The remnants of the Hojo clan members would later surrender to Takauji. A new era has begun, and the imperial rule has been restored to its glory after centuries. But if you think that this story has a simple ending like this, then you're terribly mistaken. This short period of peace is a moment of calm before the storm. Another revolution is brewing beneath the surface. The previous war would seem like children's play compared to what is about to come. The history shall be rewritten once again as the man in the shadows reveals himself. Towards the end of July 1333, Go-Daigo entered the capital. The city was full of joy and cheers, seeing the imperial rule and the emperor restored to its previous glory. One could almost feel the air of joy radiating from the city. But Go-Daigo, for all his ambition and plotting, is about to learn a harsh lesson. Ruling a nation is far more complex than overthrowing one, and the decisions he makes in the coming months will plant the seeds for the revolution yet to come. Let's start with his first major challenge, rewarding the warriors who fought to put him back in power. It seems simple, right? These men risked their lives for him. Surely they deserve to be paid. But here's where things get tricky. In medieval Japan, the amount of land you own directly relates to the power you would have. Go-Daigo has plenty of land to give out to the warriors. The vast estates of the defeated Hojo clan are now his to distribute. It's a golden opportunity to cement loyalty, establish a new order, and strengthen his rule. But what does Go-Daigo do? He wastes it. Favoritism runs wild. Bribery becomes common. Rich estates fall into the hands of unworthy owners, while deserving applicants are left with nothing. There are even rumors that Go-Daigo's favorite consort, Renshi, gets the estates of a former Hojo general. As one of the sources points out, while the battle-worn warriors stepped on each other's heels to put forward their claim, most of the available land was given to courtiers, their friends, and favorites. But perhaps the worst part of all this is Go-Daigo's fundamental misunderstanding of why these warriors fought for him in the first place. In his mind, they rallied to his cause out of loyalty to the imperial throne. But the truth is far more complex. These men fought out of hatred for the corrupt Hojo clan, not out of some deep love for imperial rule. It is true that he was the last hope of a rule free of corruption, but his actions now suggest that he isn't much different than the Hojo rule. To top it all off, Go-Daigo makes it a point to not give any sort of power to the warrior class. He is wary of the actions that led to the formation of the shogunate, and he was not repeating them. But this only deepened the hate among the samurai and feudal lords. The tension is building, and it gets worse as the months pass. The discontent grows among the warriors, and many dream of the days of the shogunate rule. As the samurai return empty-handed, they have no one else to turn to other than Takauji. As Go-Daigo's mistakes pile up, Takauji's patience thins. This isn't the empire that he envisioned. The stage is set for a new conflict, one that will test the loyalties, shatter alliances, and reshape the ruling power once again. Imperial rule, far from bringing stability and peace to the nation, has set the stage for an even greater upheaval. By the end of 1335, the warrior class as a whole had lost faith in the emperor and his rule. But this isn't just a simple matter of unhappy soldiers. What's happening here is the fracturing of Japanese society itself. On one side, you have the civil authorities, members of the court who look down on the warriors with barely hidden contempt. On the other side, Takauji's military strength is growing, potentially surpassing that of any other feudal commander. Even Nida Yoshisada, the hero of Kamakura, can't match Takauji's influence. In a feudal society where family history counts for a lot, the Ashikaga clan outranks them all. But there's one man who stands in Takauji's way, Prince Morinaga. The prince is devoted to the imperial cause and favors a government run by civilians. It is clear that it's only a matter of time before these two strong-willed men face each other. The tensions would only deepen from here. Just after a year of imperial rule, the first real conflict happens. Takauji makes a move that alarms the emperor. He is building a stronghold in Kamakura, and this sparks hope among the discontent warrior class. As autumn leaves fall in 1335, Japan finds itself in a state of confusion. Rumors spread of an imperial army, tens of thousands strong, marching against Kamakura. In response, a great force moves westward from Kamakura under the command of Kono Moroyasu, while Takauji and Tadayoshi gather more forces. Tadayoshi, Takauji's younger brother, sends a chilling message to all possible allies throughout the empire. Nida Yoshisada must be destroyed. You are to assemble your clansmen and hurry to join me. The die is cast. The war that will determine the future of Japan has begun. Despite receiving more warriors from Tadayoshi, Nida dominates the battlefield. Moroyasu's men are forced to retreat to the mountains, but Nida pushes forward in his chase. In just a matter of hours, the entire army would be wiped out. But just when all seems lost for the Ashikaga cause, Takauji himself shows up. In a brilliant move of strategy, he catches Nida's forces totally off guard, forcing them to retreat into the small town of Mishima. By the time the sun sets, Takauji and his forces reach a cliff that overlooks Mishima. Rain pours through all night until daybreak. During this time, many more warriors flock to Takauji's cause. What would happen as the dawn breaks is a desperate battle. Takauji is ruthless. He doesn't wait for the weather to clear and storms with all his might into the town. This battle would scatter what was left of Nida's army, and now that is reduced to nothing. Takauji has been dominating this war until this point. Takauji and his younger brother Tadayoshi hold a war council. It is decided that they will march on to Kyoto, the capital, to overthrow the emperor. It's midwinter, and snow lies so thick over the land that you can't tell the hills from the plains. But the Ashikaga forces cannot be stopped. During their march to the capital, their numbers only grow as more and more warriors join their cause. The battle for Kyoto started on February 16, 1336. Fighting rages day and night as more and more warriors keep joining Takauji's forces. By the night of February 23rd, after a week of non-stop fighting, the battle was won. Takauji stands victorious in Kyoto, the seat of imperial power, with the emperor on the run. And in the year 1338,
Father,
Ashikaga Takauji,
have I made you proud?
Ashikaga Takauji established the Ashikaga shogunate, the greatest dynasty of Japan that left echoes through the centuries and ruled the empire for hundreds of years. This is the bloody rise of the Ashikaga shogunate.